I ask how the community is doing this morning.
Oh, look, Peter, I think they are reeling with grief. Certainly there's a considerable amount of anger out there. If I might just start, though, by offering our community, our Redlands Coast community's condolences to the families and friends and to the first responders who live with this picture for all of their life, and thank them for their wonderful work in our community. And I spoke to Matt's parents last night, and they are incredibly grateful for how our community has rallied behind them. You would be familiar with our part of the world, Peter, and we do absolutely come together in these times of tragedy.
What more did they say in those discussions, Karen? Are you able to share any of that?
Well, look, at this point in time, I think it's really important for us to allow the families and friends of Kate and Matt to grieve. And, you know, there's a lot of conversations happening, and there will be a time and a place for that. Certainly, I became a grandmother 10 months ago, and I know that Kate's parents will be feeling the loss of that opportunity that I've been able to experience. So certainly, I personally grieve for them, and I think at this point in time, we need to let that process occur. I have written to the Minister, to our state members and our federal members, asking for unity and an opportunity for us to get behind what needs to happen, not just in this community. It's not a local government issue, it's a state government issue. But we stand ready to support our state members to find ways that Matt and Kate's loss of life can make change for the rest of the state. It's a big conversation, it's complex, but at this point in time, I'd just like to let our community grieve and support the friends and family of Kate and Matt.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about this a little bit earlier, Karen. You are understandably feeling very angry at the moment. Can you elaborate on that anger that is bubbling underneath the grief?
Well, Peter, I'm married to a police officer, and so, you know, I've had 30 plus years of understanding how complex our justice system is, youth justice, our judicial system. And once again, I share that, I carry that with me as an individual, as a mother, as someone that grew up down the road from this intersection, as a grandmother, as a member of my community, and I want to be part of that conversation to assist with change. And so what I ask from my community and the broader community is let's channel our grief, our anger, to effect change respectfully at a time that is appropriate, so that this will never happen again in my part of the world or in any part of our state. So it's a big conversation. It's not one that can happen right now. It has to have all levels of government working together. And as I said, I've written to the Minister. I've also written to our state members and our federal member for us to come together to be unified in how we affect that change. And I remain committed, as does my community, to get behind any of the opportunities that we have to stop this tragic loss of life happening anywhere in our state. And it is very, very complex, and I appreciate that it's not going to be an easy conversation.
No, for sure. And the Premier, she's already been on this morning on other forms of media talking about the fact that she wants answers. They made changes recently, in recent months, where there was a presumption against bail, but somewhere along the way the message has been missed. Is that your take on things?
Well, like I said, it's complex, and it's certainly an issue that I know the Premier will take seriously, and so will our state members here on our Redlands coast. And clearly something hasn't gone the way that people would expect it to happen in a safe place like Redlands. So we are in a very safe community. We have 43% less crime here in Redlands than we do across the rest of the state. So for it to happen here on our coast, in our community, we'll be asking questions, and certainly I join the Premier in looking for those answers, and I join our state members in affecting change. Could I also just say, Peter, that I'm incredibly proud of our community who have rallied behind Matt and Kate's family and friends. There was 2 vigils last night. We had a group of people out looking for Hermione, the dog that went missing as a result of a tragic accident. And I actually asked our council staff who were out on the road yesterday, I'd like to thank them. They were out looking for Hermione. It's a small piece in the puzzle, but it's part of that healing process. And I'm just so incredibly proud of my community, and it actually does make me feel very emotional, because I know they've done this before, and I know they'll do it again, and they will certainly be joining us in finding answers to make sure that this happens less often in our community, in our society.
Yeah, and no one wants it to happen again, that's for sure. But Karen, what specifically do you need to happen that's not already happening out there at the moment?
Well, as I wrote to the Minister and our state members, is that we need to be unified. We need to firstly, understand the cause, and then look for a solution. And it's complex. You know, I said my husband's been a police officer for 30 years. Not a lot has changed. The world has become more complex, society's become more complex, and so we need to take a fresh approach to dealing with this. And my community in Redlands, who are grieving over the loss of Matt and Kate, will definitely be part of that conversation, but that conversation needs to happen in an appropriate manner and at an appropriate time.
Yeah,
and I stand ready to work with those people to do just that.
Is it youth crime, though? I mean, there is something of an epidemic in certain areas of Brisbane at the moment, like there are in a lot of cities, it should be said, but does more need to be done in that space?
Well, once again, it's a state government law and order issue,
Yeah.
and local government stands ready to assist in finding those solutions. Like I said, Redlands is quite lucky. We don't have quite the level of crime in our city, but it's societal as well. And so, you know, there's conversation broadly across the nation, across the world, right here in Redlands, and more importantly, it sits with the state of Queensland. And I'm going to stand by and make sure my community is heard in that process of finding a solution to whether it's youth crime, the justice system. We'll work with the state government to make sure that our community can be safer.